Chedan Dorjee Chonan Lai Dhargye Chujuran Jibe Zonan Jen Dola Benje Sanje Dobarai Sho Dorjee Chonan Lai Janjo Bado Dane Janzo Dhargye Chujuran Jibe Zonan Jen Dola Benje Sanje Dobarai Sho Chedan Dorjee Chonan Lai Janjo Bado Dane Janzo Dhargye Chujuran Jibe Zonan Jen Dola Benje Sanje Dobarai Sho 世界大界都头下拉那么样到我这个商业广播上面这里有多么第一次的台北学3年的学工学是这么对这些的3门学习 I would like to encourage all of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of at least contrived bodhicitta or altruistic motivation, we should all participate in this discourse on Bodhisattva's way of life.
ngaji dibanda sonum shobo sunjo tito viteju baji shia so sachiba joba tang termase nekab da tadugondo gili shia tabe komo shona so goba chabaji jongdes sanje gi yonde ngabe dor khanda toba deshila cheba chimu sheba yang Lami dewa kun drone shime tabato shesong jashi roba lecha so na debe debe so de mi sabana khonji sheba je peyon di da ne jiu tabaso na ene de ene pe ton cheba je jiu shidi da la ene sheba je go go si cheda ti sheba ti ti do te ba sheba je de o ti log da te ba ene lo ge ene sheba je ba yi static so ta
Those of you who have the same English translation as I do, which was published by the Tibetan Library in Dharamsala, India, it's called A Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life, Shantideva. We are on page 3. So this text could be presented under 3 main outlines. Number 1, Mondo, preliminary, and number 2, the actual body of the text, which consists of 10 chapters, and number 3, conclusion. And so what we find included in the preliminaries are, for example, we already, before like preliminary, we already talked about the title of this text in Sanskrit. So in Sanskrit, Indian language, it is called Bodhisattva Char Avatar. And in Tibetan, it's called Changju Sembe Chobala Joba. In English, it's called Engaging in the Deeds of Bodhisattvas. Okay? And so Sanje the Changju Semba La Chatsolo, Tamja La Chatsolo, I prostrate to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. That is a salutation by the translator who translated this text from Sanskrit into Tibetan. We already talked about the purpose of such salutation before. And Geshe read 3 stanzas from the text, which are basically, respectfully I prostrate myself to the Sugathas who are endowed with the Dharmakaya, as well as to their noble children, and to all who are worthy of veneration. Here I shall explain how to engage in the vows of Buddha's children, the meaning of which I have condensed in accordance with the scriptures. There is nothing here that has not been explained before, and I have no skill in the art of rhetoric. Therefore, lacking any intention to benefit others, I write this in order to acquaint it to my mind. For due to acquaintance with what is wholesome, the force of my faith may for a short while increase because of these words. If, however, these words are seen by others, equal in fortune to myself, it may be meaningful to them or for them. So this is where Geshe stopped. So in the preliminary, we find a couple of points. Number 1 is Chöje. Chöje means literally expression of worship or salutation again, to be nice. And then it also contains the pledge of composition, Zombar Tamchaba, and so the expression of worship, Chöje, salutation, serves a number of purpose. And the purpose, as Geshe explained, is that if we follow even the good kind of secular tradition or way, that at the beginning, you might pay respect to whoever, we have faith in, and then you might start off with your, action or project or whatever, so that you will be able to, kind of succeed in your project or your action. And also, the purpose includes, how should I say, creating kind of conditions to be able to achieve fortunate rebirths and also attain nirvana from samsara, freedom from samsara as well as full enlightenment. Yes.
No, they talk about Cheba Yoga, I don't. Any Jibutama can dark the timber Cheba Yoga is.
Yes.
That Cheba Yoga, go out the career, said, and Cheba Yoga, then in the summer body, the Honsa, the Cheba Yoga, but the Jujag Shea, so Solon Sabi, Govani, go in Cheba Yoga, is what is that Sonusa that the Cheba Deju, the Goding out the shield to the Yata, Consa, the Chebaji inside the pay, Sundan to Matia, wanting the Sydney, in Tenzu, Jube, Govachik, Duja Hedal, Sosolia, Edinburgh, Sonumosai, Govati in ten Cheba Jeva is. That the Cheba Jewish, the Pelo Shishi, the Mega. Sanjay occurs at Cheba Jeva, Cheba. Gobaji Jode, Sanjay Yodenga with Doris, Kanda Toba Dejila, Sheva Chungu Shiva Yang, Sabi Dogu Journey, Shimitaba Toba, Shedan, Udire, that did dire, Kasa Sanjay Dol Desunda, Kanda Toba Dejil, Sanjela, Shiva Chungu Shinayati, Sada made Devasho, Sama Jibadu, and Dendru Devajoni journey. And that she made number top of Sanji going to Serva. She was Sanji Shiva paying or the long day. Here the Jajir by Lenson, the Senate Mays out and those guns down you. Pitch days you go get Goliarta or dear. Do the do long son the water Tamje Yan and Juba Jur. New the Shivata by Yang and Deva top of your head and father Digi. Ritage, Sono Kona Shiva no, Pajesho means the sheer source, that they call it a Shiva Jive, Judesana, that go battery. She tell ya, in Dusate you are go, so Solomon was I go, so Solomon was and the neck of the Jew to the Pajesha. Tatu Sanji Combatova, or to get paid to get the dollar contra and do long to get junction, or today said the Shiva Jiva is.
So the purpose of right in the beginning making salutation, the Tibetan word is Chobar Joba, which literally means expression of worship, consists of many things. As Geshe explained, that this really fits into the noble tradition of great holy beings when they composed any text or treatises right at the beginning, they would salute, holy beings, and so it goes well with that kind of noble tradition, if you will. And then also by way of making salutations, as an author, you will be able to accumulate positive energy or merit, punya. When you have merit or punya, then you succeed in all the things you do. And temporarily, benefit is that as you start off with writing this text or a project, you will be able to, complete it without hindrances or obstacles. Okay, and in the long term, benefit is that you will be able to achieve, fortunate rebirths in the meantime, and eventually you will be able to accomplish Buddhahood and enlightenment. So all of these things are related to salutation, the purpose of salutation or expression of worship. And then, of course, by writing this text, you help others to be able to, they get inspired, engage in, Bodhisattva deeds or, actions. And so these are all substantiated by reference to lines from sutra, such as a sutra extolling the qualities of Buddha. Sangye Yunde Ngakwa Jebe Do. So in that sutra, it's mentioned that even a small meritorious action that you engage in, it could really be of amazing benefit in the short and long run. In the short run, you achieve good rebirth. In the long run, you achieve enlightenment or Buddhahood. Okay? And then also in the Gandayuva Sutra, also there's mention about how those who have a lot of merits, stock of merits, these individuals become very successful in fulfilling their wishes.
어디 다들 공마들 랑도 그거 쉐바지다 헬로 되고 그거 될라 근데 쉐바지가 또도 군조 연대도 쉐네 근데 야 쇼존을 대받게 하세 될 구조 손단 당원래 거기서 그바다 될 고마 타버 톱치스 실 구조 연대도 당원 대받게 되돌 때네 에네 텐줄 비야 기메 주야기 오 디데 솔무사고 제도 두제 헬도 그거 될 슈바지 그거 될 야에네 셴텐줄 레미 조니 야상제도 그거 요레스 라제니 그거 좋아서 다타기에마도 장도 그거 바시 치마 두제 헬도 네 가리는 것은 텐줄 조조 두좀 거듯이 구조 연대도 될 당원께 당원께 톰도 있겠네 남래 리바조 상제레스
So in a nutshell, there is purpose behind salutation or expression of worship, chujo in Tibetan, and the purpose, or the benefit for the self is that you accumulate a lot of merit, you succeed in what you want to do, and eventually you will become enlightened being. And the benefit for others is that through this kind of salutations, others feel inspired and they think that, wow, the author of this text must be not just an ordinary person, must be something, extraordinary. And then, of course, based upon the salutations, so they feel inspired by the qualities of enlightened being, and then they could develop, faith in the three jewels and enlightened beings, and through that they might be inspired, encouraged to follow the way of enlightened being or enlightenment. So they could also succeed in their actions and practices leading to enlightenment. So in a nutshell, the reason, the purpose, of salutation is, meaningful, manifold. Beneficial to yourself, beneficial to others.
我的那下吃鱼的干的是呢，鱼可能下到电信是顺过的，那个是电话系我是说的，这是我的。电话系不同样这样的，这吧那门都把当时马里边通了就被按着写了。 他可是的学法就上些有的就是说，那的上些就当有的往不是有的往外了，这了呀，南镇写到那一些，那可是到不得写到，帮不得一些，这就需要我的个人对吧意思，我就是我说的。
Now, if we kind of look at the lines of expression of worship or salutation. On page 3, respectfully I prostrate myself to the Sugadas. The other translation of enlightened beings is Tathagatas, Tevarshekba, one gone to bliss in English. So of course enlightened being has infinite qualities, but following how it is explained in the Brahmana text or valid cognition treatises, we can talk about enlightened beings' qualities in terms of two categories. One is Pangpa Dekshe, which means the perfect abandonment, and the other one is Tokpa Deshe, perfect realization. Yeah, so enlightened beings' qualities can be subsumed under, explained in terms of these two things, perfect abandonment, all the things that need to be gotten rid of, abandoned, has been done completely. And all that has to be realized, actualized, has been attained. Okay? So by way of reflecting on or highlighting these two enlightened qualities or the Tathagatas, we salute, Tathagatas.
我提到上些用的可是，但是到不得些的帮不得影响的，那这些张，西瓜送的东西，咱西个送的东西，那些帮不得些，这些，样的。 这个学他就前边些都不得一些东西，看见帮助人家家呢，那可是啊，这个前边是早晚当时当，第前边永远都在帮呢，现在他们这个当没有通一些，里边这个我现在的兄弟们说这些，说流行这个些，第实际吧啦。 Shartse shebe, Chirupe Tomba Tali, Chevado Papa Tende, Setedake Minzibi Sive Dungi Jita Moshi Jungse Jang Mabanshi, Jibu Dunga Yang Mabambe So, Stadilia, Bamba Cheva Subdesa, the Chiruba Chevado Papa, any Tada Nirang Lava Cheva Papa, and the Dajambal Cheva Subdesa Joro, Tombo Delia Chiruba Cheva Papa. Chiruba in the city of the Shartse Shiga the Shena, Sibe Dunga Kayal Teto Yomar, Teto Moris, what he did on the one what the Chiruba Cheva we say. That there was a Livaban was it. That lad Mundo was said, did it, Carsa. Usual loss about the Zoe Parliament Tona, Sip Carsa Lake, not Parliament Mother Gaden. Suju some leggy, in the car job on what large dog was the call large dog was the sun year, the large Mendo Bangway, what the usual loss of my child papa. Yera does to the Yunja, the Barrets in the Yunja Paja Pig, hit upon me as a Malu Bayam, Sun year, the she did use a title possession upon the Malu Bangbaris. She that the Chiruba Yeran. Pakbache, Nero Dajaba, some of the Chava Pasu, because Pondo Nigo Chava Tedeschi Temperes.
Can you shoot the Parliament and Makovena, Soji, Hangma the Gigsumbe?
La,
you shoot the Parliament Saba in Erwa, Marsoji leg one called Sujigusumbe.
Red, Coajo, usual led was called the Dajama, Coajo, New Zealand.
No. So as we said that enlightened beings or Buddhas or Tathagatas qualities are just infinite, but we can broadly classify them in terms of two: perfect abandonment, Pangba, what called Deshe, and perfect realization, and Tokpa Deshe. And the enlightened beings' perfect abandonment is characterized by three what called unique qualities. And what are they? The number one, that an enlightened being's perfect abandonment is, unlike the abandonment of by the what calls outsiders or non-Buddhist. My first footnote in this context basically means Hindus here. Okay. And through their path and practices, they're able to overcome manifest attachment, to many aspects of the samsara, and they can go all the way to the peak of samsaric existence. See there, and then from there they couldn't go any further, and then they will drop, back, and so therefore their abandonment is partial, right? They have been able to overcome, certain attachment, manifest form. But eventually, because they have not abandoned attachment for good, so they can fall, down to lower levels of existence. But Buddha's abandonment is complete, perfect. So there's no such thing as falling back, from the enlightened state. So that's one feature, unique compared to the non-Buddhist footnote Hindu practitioners and their philosophical explanation. Unique number two feature is that in the case of Sharvakas and Patika Buddhas, or the hearers and solitary realizers, those who have what we call stream enterer, Jinshu, like when we think in terms of different types of transcendental beings or Aryas here, there are Aryas called stream enterers, okay, Jinshu. And so they have this amazing, transcendental path, but because of, their remnants of karmas from ordinary existence, they could still kind of fall back into samsara. And I double-checked this with Geshe. He said, sometimes it's mentioned that they might end up doing that 7 times at the most before they can get out. And so therefore, their abandonment is still incomplete, isn't it? That they could kind of fall back into samsara, whereas a Buddha or Tathagata's abandonment is complete and perfect. So there's no such thing as, retreating or falling back. Unique number 3 is that Buddha's perfect abandonment is, how to say, more extraordinary or better than, the abandonment of arahats, or the 4 destroyers of Sharvakas and Paticca Buddhas. Arahat is a Sanskrit term, or arahant in Pali, meaning that those who have completely freed themselves from the state of samsara. Footnote number 2. Footnote number 2. Yeah? And but they have only succeeded in abandoning completely afflictive emotions or delusions. They still have the latencies or the predispositions or imprints of afflictive emotions or pakcha. These imprints are called obscuration to cognitive obscuration to omniscience. Okay? Whereas Buddha's abandonment is complete, abandonment, because Buddha has completely gotten rid of abandoned both afflictive emotions as well as cognitive obscuration to omniscience. So therefore, Buddha's perfect enlightenment is, the super duper one, right? There is nothing better than that.
What did that the Pampas Chevasum de say? That over Chevasum de Delicasa, take on a chamber, and the chamber them a Malu chamber, some shall do as you were water. Chamber them was Costa, take on a chambers and the Chirobe Thompson to the show of our say. And the chamber them was said, they went to Niranto, Niran Lobato. The Molibu chambers, then Niran Dajum, but Tasset to the chamber power demo. Molib, she said, when the easy the chamber sang you on there, the Loba said that the guy goes to kid the Todum was on my Todum was a shimmer, said the teach and any Conji told you not any sang you, Sheva Jia, Courage, and Pamba Sheva some day, Toba Sheva some day, or Tidraji go and any Chiruba, the Niranda, Niran Lamju, the Papa. And then you're not so there's only Chava Power going to do it. She was doing that.
Yes. So as we said, that salutation is made to Sugatas or Tathagatas or Buddhas in terms of their perfect abandonment and perfect realization. So we just talked about how enlightened beings' perfect abandonment or that aspect of the Tathagata is unique in 3 different ways, right? And now let's talk about how enlightened beings' perfect realization, that aspect of the Tathagata, is also unique in 3 different ways. Okay, talk about Kyabar then. And so number 1 is that enlightened beings have, how should I say, non-conceptually realized, emptiness or thatness or suchness or tathata. Okay, so this really differentiates the enlightened beings' realization from those of the non-Buddhist, path. Again, the reference is mostly to the Hindus here, my footnote. Yeah, which means, they really, in the Hindu tradition, there is no mention about, the shunyata or tathata or all of that, So therefore, Buddha's perfect realization is unique in that way, that it is, something exclusive to the Buddhas, and his followers, but not to the non-Buddhist tradition there. Unique number 2 is that Buddha's realization is very firm, very stable, compared to the realizations of Sharvakas and Paticca Buddhas. Yeah? The unique quality number 3, Buddha's perfect realization is a complete realization, unlike the realization of Arahat or Arahant. Yeah, those who have attained nirvana or freedom from samsara, they have completely abandoned afflictive emotions and they have gained such a tremendous realization. But, their realization cannot be compared to enlightened beings because these arahats, as well as bodhisattvas on the higher level, spiritual grounds, they are not able to simultaneously experience non-conceptually the true truth. Ultimate truth, Paramartha Satya, conventional truth, Samvrita Satya. Okay? These other higher level bodhisattvas, as well as arahats of the Sharvakas, Paticca Buddhas, when we deal with emptiness, ultimate truth, they couldn't deal with the conventional truth at the same time. When they deal with the conventional truth, they couldn't deal with ultimate at the same time. Whereas one of the unique qualities of enlightened beings is that enlightened beings' omniscient mind can simultaneously, right, seize and both truths together. So therefore, enlightened beings' realization is a complete realization. So as you can see, that salutation is made to enlightened beings or Sugatas in terms of their perfect abandonment, unique in three different ways we just talked about, perfect realization, unique in three different ways. Yeah.
Choguda Sangyeli Yako Som Sheko Shisha, Gogas Tireke Yorwata, Kusum Shugulungu Tukusum Sishana, Duo, Shugudeta, Tisha Ishi Shoguda, Edim Gordon Muni Nishe, Suguta Lungu Nishe, or to Kusum Shana to Shawashita, the Kanji, Kusum to the Gawe Gone, you Lama someone Nashi, any Sanji tell Shartse is, Utimira.
Respectfully, I prostrate myself to the Sugatas or Tathagatas. We just explained that, and who are endowed with the Dharmakaya. As it is stated in the Uttara Tantra or Sublime Continuum, my next footnote, it's not a Tantra as an esoteric Tantra, right? Anybody's thinking it's Tantra? It's not. Footnote closed. So as Geshe explained, that in the Uttara Tantra, there's mention about how enlightened beings have enlightened bodies or kayas. Sometimes we can talk about 3 kayas or 3 enlightened bodies, or sometimes we can talk about 4 kayas or more enlightened bodies. When we talk about 3 enlightened bodies or kayas, these are Dharmakaya, Chugu, or truth body, and Sambhogakaya, or complete resource body or complete enjoyment body, Lungu, and Nirvanakaya, or what called emanation body, or Tulku. Okay, so these are the 3 enlightened bodies, if you will. Now, if you look within this, we can see that the truth body consists of 2 enlightened bodies. One is called the natural truth body, Asava Bhavilka Kaya, Ngoniku, and the other is called the Jnana Dharmakaya, wisdom truth body. Both of them are truth body or Dharmakaya, but they are 2. In the case of form body, enlightened, there are 2, Sambhogakaya, complete resource body, and Nirmanakaya, emanation body. So those are the 4 enlightened bodies. So if we kind of reflect on enlightened qualities, just like we talked about, we can think in terms of perfect abandonment, perfect realization, perfect compassion, infinite, and perfect enlightened activity. So all of these qualities are subsumed within this explanation called Tathagatas, right? Qualities.
What the Tasu do the Sanji and Kusona any Muni the Ishishoku in the Techi water, Karsa. Chugushe and Lungu in the Sugushe, Chuzuku is an Jaco Somsi Sananja, and it Chidan and Sanji Kuyo, the sales of Susan, and Tokyo, the summit, the Zinjis, and some were the Sunayala to say, what did Gaga Sanji Lingawas, the Jugulama, Suanashi, whatever the Yodons of any Sanji that Shartse that Shartse that do this.
So the short explanation is that I prostrate myself to the Sugatas or Tathagatas who are endowed with the Dharmakaya, as well as to their noble children, and to all who are worthy of veneration. So when we kind of look in the Buddhist authentic texts, Buddhist qualities are explained in many different ways. We can think in terms of enlightened form body has like a 32 major marks, right? And the major and minor marks, we can think about that. Or in terms of Buddha's speech, we can talk about 60 vocal qualities, enlightened qualities. In terms of Buddha's mind, we can think in terms of 21 what called aspects of uncontaminated, exalted wisdom of a Buddha. Right? So all of these things are Buddha's qualities of body, speech, and mind. So all of these things are reflected here in this one term called Tathagatas, one gone to bliss, or Sugatas. So we reflect on all of these qualities and we bow down to Tathagatas, as well as their noble children, meaning the Bodhisattvas and others who deserve our veneration or respect. So in that one opening stanza, there's only mention of Dharmakaya, right? The Chujiku. Of course, when we think in terms of the three jewels, right? It's not just the Dharma. There is a Buddha and there is Sangha. And the Dharma is mentioned because of the three jewels. Dharma is a prime, right? And it's through Dharma, one can become a Sangha and one can become an enlightened being. So explicitly, Dharma is mentioned. Implicitly, the two other objects of refuge are also mentioned, Buddha and Sangha. And as we said, to all who are worthy of veneration, meaning what called Bodhisattvas, ordinary and transcendental Arya Bodhisattvas, as well as the Sharvakas and Patika Buddhas, who are transcendental or who are still in the path. So everybody here who really deserves our veneration, respect, so it says we salute you.
Shangba de di gindu gujo da di da jida se ne yina ganga jo di ka se de shangsu papa ju sarwa di se che ba shangba de di gindu gujo de la de na ne sanyi to le che be se yin la ye se de ba se che be ton ti yin to no to be se sanyi na zre ji che ba tar sang je ba sanyi yi dong zo da ba dong zo to ba当地全国过说了，说的商业小学为觉得人了，日子要因觉了嘛，听着了嘛，上班学了商业学的，有些年纪慢慢的，看一点对艺术，些听见也学了，没把什么到外去学了，学了那马上的到我年已经是什么专门，慢慢些商业就，热水接完，怎么到罗山。就是他的谢谢的呢，谢谢的他的可啥，上去送了点呢，也是送些，就连也是的也是，上去个动作的那个是今天那业务写都是业务都是呀，出些的那些基本都的，因上去谢谢的，这些都得的，好像上去动作这个上去就嘛些不可能用过是。So in the
third line it says, as well as to their noble sons, or I translate noble children here. Of course, in general, noble children can include Sharvakas and Patika Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all of them. But in this particular context, the noble sons or noble children really refer to Arya Bodhisattvas, transcendental Bodhisattvas. Yeah? And of course, Arya Bodhisattvas constitute a spiritual community or Sangha. Yeah? And so Arya Bodhisattvas are called children, noble. Why? Because they are as if born from the speech of enlightened beings, right? They follow the discourse or the teaching of the Buddha. They cultivate, the mind of enlightened men, and then they become Bodhisattvas. As a matter of fact, when you are on the path of accumulation, right? This is where you become Bodhisattvas, so through, Buddha's speech or the discourse, they practice and follow the path, and eventually they become Buddhas as well. Okay? And then they can represent Buddha. So they are like successors to the Buddha. Without Bodhisattvas, they cannot be Buddhas, right? Theoretically speaking, if Bodhisattvas, couldn't exist at all, then there cannot be any more Buddhas, right? We are done. Okay? Because Bodhisattvas are possible, exist, so they eventually become Buddhas. Okay? Then you give teaching, then you produce more Bodhisattvas. This is how it works out. And so all of these things are mentioned in the Uttara Tantra or Sublime Continuum.
Xīn tīkshī tūmū māyī bē, jāb nī sūyō māyī yāng, yōndē tān tēn xīn sī, pēntō chīyō gō nī, sī jāb sū chīwā, chāngsū sō jī xē, nirā lōb mī lōb xē, sū chīyō kēn lōb dā, gōsū tōgī, sāngjī gōsū tōgī, dā shū tēn lā sō bā dā, lī bōm dā, shū tēn sū gō nā shā sē xē bā wā sē, wā dā, cē sī nī xē nā, dī xī sē jī, chū chū wā mō kī chū lī, chū tēn rī jē mī dō wā tī xī nā,
Of course, in the opening stanza, in the 4 lines, what we find explicitly mentioned are the Tathagatas or the Sugatas, Dharmakaya, and noble sons or children. Yeah? But everybody could not be mentioned here, whereas it says to all who are worthy of veneration. So this will include everybody who deserves veneration or salutation. And as Geshe explained, so this would include what we call ordinary bodhisattvas, of course, transcendental bodhisattvas mentioned already, and the trainees on the path of Sharvakas and Patika Buddhas, transcendental Sharvakas and Patika Buddhas, here in solitary risers, as well as the spiritual abbots, right, from whom you need ordination, spiritual preceptors or loben. And so all of them are part of this object of veneration because they all deserve salutation and veneration. And in the case of the Dharma, all the symbols that represent the Dharma, such as the Dharma text, deserve our veneration or salutation, respect, as well as the reliquary stupas, chordens, which represents the enlightened mind. All of this deserve our veneration. So these things are not explicitly mentioned, but they are in all those worthy of veneration. Okay.
No,
so. And so our critics might raise a point of contention here, like why are only Sugatas and Dharmakaya and the noble children are mentioned? Now, what about other objects of refuge? Because in the 70 stanzas on refuge, Jambu Tunjuma, like there's also mention about the 8 different types of spiritual community in the Sharvakas, for example, right? Steam enterer and abider, all of those things. They are not mentioned. So what about them? Aren't they the objects of refuge? Of course, in general, they are objects of refuge. But in this context, we are really dealing with Mahayana path and practices. Therefore, what are mentioned explicitly are the Tathagatas and the Dharmakaya and the Bodhisattvas.
Well, that's a unity. That's how to look the Gaden says, and that is it. Switch that said, Kuba, any Lu Kube, Mombutu and Diabas. Lu Mombutu and any Ninga sal zubanda Ling the sal jideji nga kube dunga jewa da yi kube yonde shida temba te gosung kube gone Shartse los. The Shartse dan Shartse se the karisena jayu tire de ni yud shin de la ne lunga is kube gone ne da cha de be na pe kumja ne yanga sal ya jangja ne lu yong zo sal ya o tire kaji gosung juba chi di ge ne pe kube sha de Shartse se hors.
So what does Shartse or prostration mean? Okay. And of course, there are different ways of prostrating. You know, we can think in terms of what we call physical prostration, and there are many different versions. The one we usually do is the short version where you kind of touch the 5 parts of your body, forehead, palms of your hand, and the 2 knees on the ground. Okay, that's called kumcha. This is like a kind of short version, bend down prostration. That's physically prostrating to objects of veneration. Or that you can do full length prostration. You can completely fall flat on the ground, right? And that's called full length prostration. So these constitute physical prostration, thinking about the enlightened qualities, you know. And then verbal prostration consists of chanting, reciting, singing the qualities of the Buddhas and objects of veneration. That's a verbal prostration. And then the mental prostration consists of bringing to our mind the qualities of enlightened being and objects of refuge, thinking about those qualities. That's a mental prostration. So in other words, when we do prostration, we synchronize our body, speech, and mind, and with one pointedness, thinking about the qualities of the enlightened beings and others of objects of veneration, we physically, verbally, and mentally salute them, bow down to them.
Oh, that chart singing the Karsa. So the Geshe Gyeltsen rest. That you could say that in the Shushan was on say this. That chart in the Tessia, the roll, because that this chart said there's a Tessia, because the Chimandrema, in Zobatanja, is usually some with Zobatanja negos. There he was a true shit, they say, says I hear what that chart in the Tensions of Monjuji. 我们这边是垃圾一车过去，我但是呀，这个其他地方是不是的垃圾拿着哇？我的那电视上面是我的这个地方参加等到电视下来，可是等到电视上面是。
So here, who is prostrating to Sugatas, Tathagatas, Dharmakaya, noble children, and all worthy of veneration? In this particular case, the one who is prostrating to them, saluting them, is Bodhisattva Shantideva. Okay. And when did he do this? This is like at the beginning, before he composed this text called Bodhisattva's Way of Life or Bodhisattva Chart Avatar. Okay? And so in the Tibetan text, that's the explanation given. It's not in English, so you won't notice what is here. In the Tibetan, the actual text is having prostrated to them, right? When you say that word having, the Tibetan grammatical, anybody who is a grammar buff here, Tibetan, there's a te. So that shows that having said this, then there has to be something followed, right? Having prostrated to, that's incomplete, right? Having prostrated to them, so what are you going to do now? So grammatically, the te has means there's something else, you know, I'm going to tell you, but in the English translation, there is no having whatever that thing. So you don't see it, but in the Tibetan, there is that, so it means having prostrated to you, this is what I'm going to do now. Okay, this is my plan, you know.
我的他但是的做么他们晓得，他做么他们晓得，怎么的他们晓得了？那些这个话，那些谁个都能就把那些，那龙个都能得些把啥些去多，我的把做么他们晓得是的得了呀，那些谁说的得了样，果冻他的做么他们晓得了，那果冻、牛冻、吃东西，什么有些，我这是我的。 Because some of the Tamban, some of them say, Sidon, the Mervani, Tamanam, Kelang, be Kurnaya Mendorhin, Telanaya, Doba Mejives, some of Tashim Bakevatis, Govati, some of Tamasha Govati, and the Gibatamazola, and the Kelan, and the typical Tamja, the Mandros and Mizib, Dembodia Tonala, Kevana, Dashuna, Shumashuna, Mashuna. Tagas leder jorwa, oti bayong tondala. Inu somata shashi.
So in the Tibetan version, having prostrated to the Sugatas and all of them, I want to pledge now, right? This followed by the action, having done something, right? That's what the word te, grammatical, indicates. So as it is followed on page 3, it says, here I shall explain how to engage in the vows of Buddha's sons, the meaning of which I have condensed in accordance with the scriptures. So having prostrated to the Sugatas, the Dharmakaya, and the noble sons, and all worthy of veneration, I pledge. This is what we call the pledge of composition, Tsompa Dhammjava. And the pledge of composition fulfills certain reason or the purpose. The purpose number 1 is that holy beings, once they pledge a promise, they never give up on their promise. Okay, it's not like, did I say that? No, Geshe didn't say that. I just added that one. Then no, I don't think I said it. No, once they pledge, that's it. They're going to do it. So that's why I'm going to pledge to compose this text, and I'm going to do it. I'm never going to kind of give up that pledge.
What did Karsa? Somebody got the Shera Domble, Taman, Keshe, Kedeka, those remarks, Shantideva Minjuro. You don't have a young, she don't so Jena, so young. Rag never saw a Mishite, Chibutaba, Koji, Chavata. Nyangen is a young Nayan Dorme, so said that did a country. So, but go what they want the sugar of that. In the Teju Tam Majib said that Shashi she do Shashana and go to use the water should not sound to her. Dira Mazia, Pajet to success sooner, that you some person by Shishu to the Uro. That Kalas is on any Kibutas was that I said, don't meet cut what you have got there to Cardican and degrees have a Gagaki less you thought that you it's just a Chinese yakti in the Kalas and the Yagi in the two Gaboyas or the Jig. There's some Batasia Tondal and the case of what of Shavar.
So this pledge of composition or Tsompa Dhammjava is very important. Let's say, before you make a pledge, right? You think of, okay, I want to write this book. Well, then it's based on a condition like if everything goes well, my life goes smoothly, well, I'll do it. Well, if things don't work out, so what? I'm not going to do it. That's that danger, right? If everything goes beautiful, I'll do it. If not, I can just ditch it. No, but once you pledge it, especially bodhisattvas, when they pledge it with their life. They are going to do it regardless of any circumstances. So that's the power of making a pledge of composition. As Geshe cited a text which basically says, holy beings do not make too many promises. Once they make promise, their promise is as good as inscribing anything in the rock. They would prefer to die rather than break their promises. And that's how the promise is as good as it is. So Bodhisattva's promise is not like what we will find the sweet talkers these days. Some people are very quick to promise everything. They can just kind of honey talk, right? Sweet, and I'll do it, no, but they really don't mean anything. It's not that. Bodhisattvas say, I will, that means I will,
What is Nippon is that you don't take some Tamja. Second, you Duje Carsa Juja Tonten, this Ranso and Devapam Begones, Zombake Lambos. Longi didn't Jiva Shasa. No, Longi do Jiva Shasi, the Terrace, Garme subject of Shin, the Tangas, and the Sanji Sonshava, Sanji da, and the Sanji just Shupe, Gobolito Lasso, what they take it just down the Jew Modoji, and the corner Ranso means Longi didn't Jiva Shasi, they would. So it says that here I shall explain how to engage in the vows of the Buddha's sons, the meaning of which I have condensed in accordance with the scriptures. This is where Shantideva was telling us the way he is going to compose this text is following Buddha's teaching or the discourse as well as the works of other great masters such as Nagarjuna. So basically he's saying that I'm not going to concoct everything, just make it all up, I'm just going to do it in accordance with Buddha's teaching and the authentic, works of great masters. So it's not going to be just my own artificial creation, concoction. This is going to be authentic, following the way of the Buddha. What did that use that do that? Karishi is and this is what that. These say the short just 7 days, of course. Did the way but that's case, the way he showed you 7 now. You told me, showed you the same year, said that the Jupiter was at the consider. Tom what I want to show you some good thing and don't shake it of the shit. How did you Chindu love this? Tasanji and part Chidu Laviati, Ribeja was at Che. And Della didn't do a touch in the Sanji or Della in the Tribeja was at but the touch in the Sanji, but you take what she would love you in Batata Gaze, David Yamli Doshibu, La Juban, the Juja, Juja was on in last, Juja the days, and that the in the Chojusi Joba that she changed. What did that?
So having prostrated to the Sugatas and all of them, and I pledged to compose this text, how to engage in the vows of the Bodhisattva's children in accordance with the scriptures. So Bodhisattva Shantideva is saying that what I want to do now here is, so I'm going to explain basically the paths of Mahayana, leading to enlightenment. I'll start off with the beginning, which is cultivating awakened mind or bodhicitta, altruistic mind of enlightenment. And that is like a motivational factor, your mindset. And with bodhicitta, what do? You have to engage in actions or the deeds. The deeds consist of 6 perfections, right? That means you are engaging in actions. This constitutes actual practice of offering of practice, So as a result of these 6 perfection practices, actions, where you will end up? You will end up in enlightenment. That would be your outcome or the result. So I'm going to explain all of these things, right, in this composition or text.
What is Kasa? The Jew goes on in La Telayan, Simjeva, Jubicheva, Chinduke, Nyana, Jubijeva, Shugu Chinjeva, Trubijeva, Jeva, some Gidewa, the Jeva, some less, Shundi Namani Chever. Because you have things, Shimon Dodi the devil, that usually comes in Toboya, Jupiter, showed you same code, the pay on that Gagachi, Geshe Gyeltsen. That is the same thing in Java lawyer, the Parushima told that country, Yezi Java Tata lawyer, Java thing, or said the Tini Java share or rest. That he Java share, and the attack the Yamslam, Tombo Silk, in the Java Yamslam, and they take home Sanji, Tiga. Tribute was said, Jeva share, Maris. Sanji goes to your Jeva Jamado. What is it?
So, as Shantideva said, I will explain how to engage in the vows of Buddha's sons, meaning that I will explain, what are the benefits of cultivating fully awakened mind or bodhicitta. I'll explain what is bodhicitta and how to cultivate it. And then I'll explain, how to engage in the deeds of bodhisattvas or actions or 6 perfections of bodhisattvas. I will explain them in detail, but then I'll very briefly highlight the outcome, enlightenment. So in this text, if you really look carefully, the benefits of bodhicitta are explained. The bodhicitta explained in detail. The 6 perfections explained in detail. But all of this will lead to enlightened state. The qualities of enlightenment are just mentioned, not really explained in detail.
Oh dear, that this same thing that the Lungi don't do they say you don't do one say I think I said that. Don't say I tell ya and say Hodon Sheva Henda Jana. Don't she was same you Jurkiva, Lava days, Tabata can usually do with certain ya and Gangal Koya, you said it. I get the social sim gets a here, what that social sim Mundo can said Del Shebadovane, the call Shebadova to go over this to Gangal Janzas, she lava, certainly lava Gangaki over what he is over. Don't she was showing Jurkiva Lava there, tell you some Simji, the Joa Lava Drubanines, Joa Lava Drubanine. Namala Momba the Jubani, Shimalam Dobe to the Dobe to the Sapanga de Rava, Nijo Domata, and Jubes that Yezi, Hedos, Yezi Chava Tisha. Lawate, Yi Sam, Yang Dombe Sedun Lasso, Dombe Sedu, Nijo de Sedu said, Yoshi to some shoe and the Lebe Council said, Shiva Show, she's a Tangje, she's at the Japan shower, Dahin, Nijo Tangi, Jova Show, Sanji Yonde Tangi in Bena, Saji Jashi, Daiji, Tijin Lam, Tata Duba was it, Tata Dom said, the Shiva Jigana.
Here I shall explain how to engage in the vows of Buddha's son or ethics. So this can be explained in some other ways too. The one explanation I just provided is that Shantideva says, I'm going to talk in detail about the benefits of bodhicitta, how to cultivate it, how to engage in the six perfections, but then I will very briefly mention the qualities of enlightenment. Now another explanation about the vows here means that we can think in terms of all the three types of ethics will be explained here. The ethics of restraining from negative actions, the ethics of what are called accumulating virtue, and the ethics of benefiting sentient beings, all of those will be explained. That's all included in the vows or ethics. Also, this includes how can we get rid of attachment to this life, attachment to samsara, all of that. Also, this will include the practices of three higher trainings, training in higher ethics, training in higher samadhi, absorption, and training in higher wisdom. In short, the complete, vast and profound path of the Mahayana will be explained. That's what it's saying. All of those explanations is about what it means, the vows of Buddha's children. Okay.
Tumo mai ganga khangsi sungja da lang manglang namsha ganga thina durwa odi dures ta jugba sheba juji shungda te ne juje thon tichebon pangla so da mano ngebe go ne nyazlam bol cheda je bata te ba te es inda di chonju kharte ga sta tige namsha te ne pe langja chejung sungdu an bangja pe nimu plus ba bangja o ti namsha langdo shia and the
vows also means that this text is not only going to dwell on explained ethics of restraining from negative actions, because that is the practice of initial level practitioner or small scope practitioner. Here we are dealing with Bodhisattva's way of life or practices. So therefore, this will explain all types of ethics, practices which are common with the initial level practice, common with the intermediate level practice, and then the advanced level practice. So this text will talk about all of those ethics and practices. In short, that the subject matter of this text is complete presentation of the Mahayana path, with regard to what needs to be abandoned, gotten rid of, and what needs to be cultivated, adopted. Okay.
What da karsa unen de ronzo shin jedam shin mind is dan chron shea de ene karsa ronzo ju shin kong me yo shin de mind shin mind de jeje ton sa ji ja shawa nam pebe se ju de ma jo ye yi shi long de be se ba rondo je se che mu ne be to ba sa ji yi sung be long tikba shebu sungro tsema chuba le shungwa shetawa shendio long gomba le mandeba juejeba tes zu rongsu niba pongwa tenne se shala long gomba se tuk sheba tenne tenne rangar zombe se niba pongwa se o te daji da chura shidi zon de tagili majik do tsari chunang pe samdu de shego khong long ro yo shego se samdu de shego mes ne khong long sin shego yo en so samdu ji go she da de ne sang ye sa de lam du ni she do nong ju do go res ni si men sang ye da in teaching you Dharma to do then over is.
No, sure.
She's a get in the sugar, she's a sugar miss.
No, sure. So, how, if asked, how is he going to explain all of these, paths of Mahayana, right? And Shantideva says, are you going to just share only your personal feelings, what you think it is? How are you going to do that? And Shantideva says, no. If anybody just shares their own personal feeling, you cannot explain the vast and profound path leading to enlightenment, because you are going to make a lot of mistakes. So the way I'm going to explain this is following the authentic discourse of the teaching of the Buddha, as well as the authentic works by other great, the masters. So I'm going to follow their way, their valid teaching, authentic teaching, and explain these things. So I'm not going to talk about my personal kind of, views and feelings and all of that,
What is that? In the day, long tear me here, and then the charge and do make it to a came not that shake I mean, I said not this way. So, some position, go imagine, though I mean, you Shannon, sooner that sooner to hear large remarks Ganga, Debs are bound to have the cowboys and take the quorum to the Tiresbe, and the Shung Gibo, Ganga said, any law member to Gilang to be Tuzin Jota Ganga or it. So that Diego was choked to do, but those was the social to Disha in the and the lot the big young land they are told that they go over your shelter in David John Yomaris.
So then, maybe as if critics are, asking Shantideva, well, if you say that you are going to explain everything here, following the authentic discourse of the Buddha and other authentic texts and treatises, right? Then they have already done that. So why you need to do it again? Are you just repeating what they said? Because Buddha already taught and other great masters already written. So why you want to do that if you're just going to follow them? And Shantideva says, there is a purpose behind my composition. That is that it's very hard to find a text, which presents systematically, right, all the paths, right, leading to enlightenment. Of course, Buddha's teachings are very extensive, right? Sometimes they're so explained in detail that people, who are not that interested, they're just like, okay, I don't know, this is too much, they just give up on that, And so things are very dispersed, and not everything is put easy to kind of follow. So he said, basically, I am putting everything in a systematic form, easy to follow. Okay? So it's almost like spoon feeding you, right? And that's why there's a reason. My purpose of doing this is so that interested practitioners can easily follow all the things in one text, kind of thing.
What did that Jewish that young page Jagala Shibu Keta or Pula Tishi Dom was here, Dobje was the Sajo to Georgia, he of Ganga Bayo said, Sajo was which is the tea, go what to do the shower. Here you had it. Saji Canala, your end, go to tell you the Yordi. This is the Gaga rule that just she be bound to do your mother. Said he got to that Sajo Dishata, and the show shows you some of the any. Javu Ningal be shown sent into Sashibuzia, using the did it. Those was Sajo Tongjushe, and they are called the Wushi, Peggy Karsa, Gahya, remote of the Jakai, go to Mizu or Kaduma Doya, which is a tea, Petad, there was at the La Lane, there were years. But today, Jesus, Tom Shambashiko, using it or tea insword.
So the main purpose behind this work called Bodhisattva Char Avatar, or engaging in the deeds of Bodhisattvas, is because Shantideva has kind of synthesized and presented everything in a systematic form, easy to follow. It's just like easy to digest, spoon feeding. Who doesn't want spoon feeding? Geshe didn't say that. So so that's kind of very hard to find. So that's the main reason why this Shantideva's work became one of the most well-known and regarded one of the most authentic texts both in India and Tibet. And many other great masters have written so many commentaries on this text, because Shantideva has done this amazing job of synthesizing and putting everything in an easy-to-follow way, And in this text, mostly he's not doing debate and argumentations here, right? Refuting some viewpoint and all of those things. He just simply present, right, the topics for easy to understand way. And for such reason, I think that serves the very purpose of composing this wonderful text. And so we will stop there today, page 3. We only did 2 stanzas, if you are just wondering. Amazing explanation from Geshe.